A woman returned from abroad with money and pride, with no intention of sleeping in her old family home. Instead, she booked herself into a newly built luxury hotel on the outskirts of her hometown. She stepped out of the rental car like a queen surveying her kingdom. The air smelled of damp earth and freshly cut grass, a scent she hated as a teenager. She adjusted her sunglasses and looked at the small houses beyond the road. Nothing had changed, only she had. She froze when she recognized the man crouched by the garden. It was her high school ex, Stuart, struggling to trim the edges with a dull pair of scissors. She smirked and walked over. "Stuart, I almost didn't recognize you." She looked at the scissors in his hand and smiled faintly. "You still do this kind of work?" He stood up slowly. "Just helping out." "I see," she said, brushing invisible dust from her sleeve. "Life did not turn out very ambitious for you." Without waiting for a reply, she turned and walked away. Stuart opened his mouth as if to speak, then stopped. He only nodded once, even though she was no longer looking at him. "Stacy, is that you?" She lifted her head and saw a familiar face stepping out of the reception. "Bridget, it has been so long." "I'm telling you," Bridget said with a slow nod. "You really look amazing." "I know," Stacy replied, her smile full of pride. "What are you doing with yourself these days?" she asked, her voice carrying a hint of condescending curiosity. "I am happily married to a kind, hardworking, and visionary man," Bridget said calmly. Stacy forced a thin smile. "I hope he treats you well," Stacy said. "Life can be difficult when money is tight." Bridget noticed the tone, but said nothing. At that moment, a middle-aged man in a gardener's uniform hurried across the lawn toward the flower beds. "Boss, I found the new scissors." Stacy glanced at Bridget, expecting her to laugh at the misunderstanding. Bridget did not laugh. "I almost finished trimming the edges," Stuart said, handing him the old pair. "You can finish up." "Thanks, boss." Stacy frowned. She looked from the worker to Stuart, waiting for someone to correct the mistake. Another employee passing by gave Stuart a polite nod. "Good afternoon, Mr. Hartwell." Stuart returned the greeting casually. Stacy let out a small laugh. "They are very polite here," she said. "Nice that they treat the maintenance workers with respect." Stuart looked at her for a moment but said nothing. A slow unease settled in Stacy's chest. "You work here, don't you?" she asked. "Yes," Stuart said calmly. He lifted his hand and gestured toward the hotel entrance. Stacy followed his gesture. Above the entrance doors, carved into the stone facade, were the words, "Hartwell's Hotel." She stared at the letters, reading them once, then again. His surname settled heavily in her mind. She had typed it while booking the room online, seen it on the confirmation email, even passed the sign at the driveway. She had never questioned it. It had never once occurred to her. Stacy lowered her head. She forgot how to speak. Stuart only said, "I hope your stay is comfortable." She could not bring herself to look at him. The words she had said to him minutes earlier repeated in her mind, each one sharper than before. For a long moment, nobody spoke. A car pulled up at the entrance, and a uniformed bellman hurried to assist the arriving guests. They greeted Stuart and Bridget warmly as they passed. The bellman gripped the handle of a wheeled suitcase and paused. "Mrs. Hartwell," he said politely. "The guest in room 27 asked to thank you personally for the complimentary bottle of wine." Bridget smiled. "Thank you, Jeffrey." The words settled slowly. "Mrs. Hartwell." Stacy's eyes moved from Bridget to Stuart. The connection formed quietly, and for the first time, a faint uncertainty crept into her thoughts. Stacy stared at the ground where she had stood mocking Stuart minutes earlier. "I should check in," she said quietly. Stuart nodded politely. "Welcome to the hotel." She walked toward the reception, but at the glass doors she saw her reflection beside the carved name in the stone. For the first time since returning home, she avoided her own reflection. The woman in the glass looked smaller than she remembered. Living abroad does not make anyone better than those back home. character, not location, defines a person's worth. The people we look down on may be standing higher than we think, and pride often blinds us before wisdom has a chance to see. If you enjoyed this story, consider liking and subscribing to Word, Sound, and Story for more dramatic tales by Troy Mackenzie.